What is going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a wonderful day today. In today's video, we're going to be going over the electric cars with the highest real world range. So I found this interesting because all the ranges you see online are usually EPA. However, after reading a few articles and seeing a bunch of reviews from people, I noticed that the real world range of electric cars is actually really different than the EPA range. So before we start, we need to know a couple of things. First, what is the EPA? EPA stands for Environmental Protection Agency of the United States. They're basically an agency that makes sure that we don't pollute and destroy the world. Since today's video is about electric cars, I won't be going over how the EPA comes up with the fuel economy for ICE cars, or also known as internal combustion engine. First, it's important to know that the EPA only does a small portion of the certification and lets the manufacturers do the majority of the testing. Then, the EPA reviews these documents submitted by the manufacturers. This also means that there's going to be always room for finagling. Now, let's take a look at some data that's given to us by the EPA and see how they actually determine the range of a car. So the graph you see is at City Cycle. The total test time is 31 minutes, covering 11 miles at an average speed of 21 miles per hour and a maximum speed of 56 miles per hour. The test measures the energy consumption from which the estimated range is calculated. Specifically, the test determines the kilowatt hours per 100 miles. And the real reason that you see such a huge discrepancy between the EPA and real world range is that the EPA tests are performed not on the road, but instead in a lab with a dyno. And it's done like this so that it makes the tests more repeatable and easier for the EPA. The next thing we need to know is how this article actually tests the real world range. They start by draining the battery and recharging it to full by using a modified charging port which has a built-in meter to measure the energy in kilowatt hours it takes to recharge the battery. All of this is done in an air-conditioned room to ensure that the consistent temperature is maintained throughout the test. They also make sure that the tire pressures are at manufacturer's limits before they drive the cars. Next, they only run the test when the temperature is between 10 and 15 degrees Celsius, and they always have one driver and one passenger. Then, they set the interior temperature of the car to 21 degrees and they use normal driving mode with standard regeneration. The actual test is ran on their private track, which is 19.4 miles. It has a bunch of start-stop, traffic, rural roads, and highways. Then, when they're done the test, they plug the car back in and note the energy needed to recharge the battery. Now that we understand how the range is calculated both with the real world test and the EPA, now let's take a look at which cars actually have the best range. So starting at number 7, we have the new Audi e-tron. The e-tron is definitely one of the more expensive SUVs and it starts around 75,000 USD. It's definitely more luxurious compared to other cars, and in my opinion, a lot of newcomers coming into the electric market really want to get into this. So the EPA range for this car is actually 204 miles, and the real range is 196 miles. So right off the bat, you see that there's actually not much of a difference, and this was actually pretty surprising to me considering the next cars we'll see on the list. At number 6, we have the Tesla Model S 75D. Now this is where it's going to really get interesting. So this car starts anywhere between 75 to 85k USD and has an EPA range of 335 miles. Just comparing the EPA range to the Audi e-tron EPA range, we see that there's already like 130 mile difference. However, the tests done in the article, they saw that the real range was 204 miles. So this to me is pretty crazy, the difference between EPA range and the real world range. So if you guys don't believe me, go ahead and look into the article and actually see how they're done and do some fact checking. But I feel like a lot of people are going to get upset that the range is a lot less than what the EPA figures estimate. The number 5 spot is taken yet again by another Tesla. This time it's the Model X 100D. So far, this is the most expensive car on the list, and it starts around 100k USD for the base model. Once again, we see that the EPA range is a lot more than what the actual range is. So the EPA range is 325 miles, which at face value is quite a bit, but once again, if we take a look at the article where they did the test, we see that they actually got something similar to the 75D, which is 233 miles. And number 4 is, yep, you guessed it, it's another Tesla, and it's the Model 3 Performance. I could honestly make an entire video dedicated talking about how good the Model 3 performance is, but honestly, that's for another time. So the Model 3 has an EPA range of 310 miles. However, from the tests, we see that they got a range of 239 miles, which is, again, significantly less than what the EPA estimates, similar to how the Model X and the Model S were. So by now, you're probably wondering if Teslas aren't the top 3 cars in real-world range, then what is? Well, let's take a look. Okay, so the number 3 and number 2 spot are tied. Both the Jaguar I-Pace and the Kia e-Niro, that I say, have a real range of 250 miles. However, the EPA estimates the Kia to have a range of 239 miles and the I-Pace with a range of 234 miles. So the Jaguar starts at 70K USD and caps out around 86K with all the options and stuff, and then the smaller, cheaper Kia costs around 45K for the all-in premium version. Now for the last car on the list, I bet almost all of you are going to be surprised with the car, and it's the Hyundai Kona Electric. So this car has an EPA estimated range of 258 miles and a real-world range of 209 miles. Comparing it to the other cars, it's actually bargains and it's around 40,000 USD. So there you have it. You have the real world range of all the hottest electric cars on the market, and I'm curious, what do you guys think? Overall, when I actually first saw this article, I was really surprised, especially considering everyone thinks that Teslas have the highest range because of the EPA rating, which brings me to my next point is if the EPA rating is so much higher than what the real world range is, I wonder what's going on with their testing. If you actually look at the top three, you see that the EPA range is actually really, really close to what the real world range. And with the Hyundai, it's only a 1 mile difference. But if you look at the Teslas, some is anywhere between 100 and some are even 80-mile differences, which is kind of makes me wonder like what's going on with their testing. Do they need to make their testing better? Is it bad? And the next thing that I'm actually really happy that way they did the testing is they made sure that they had all the same variables for every car, including temperature, tire, all those different things. And I think it makes for a lot better and more accurate results. So a couple of you might point out, they didn't test the Model 3 long range, and I think it's because in the UK you can only get the Model 3 performance. So maybe that would result in a higher range result in the Model 3, but for now, given what the article tested, that's all we have. So I think a really another important thing that we have to look at is that the article didn't test the range in cold weather. So as most of you know, when batteries are in cold, this range gets reduced significantly. From what I've read, you can get even some cars get 100-mile range reduction. So that's another thing to consider when you're looking at the ranges of cars. I recommend you going and seeing what different websites, what different places tested the range of the car that you want to buy, and seeing how much it actually declined when the weather was cold. Overall, I hope you guys really enjoyed the video, and I hope this gave you more insight into understanding how ranges for electric cars work. And for those of you, who thought you could only buy a Tesla and you didn't really like Tesla, now you guys can see that there's actually a lot more options in the market right now, and there's even cars right now that have much higher range. I guess if you consider 30 miles more, but have higher real world range than Teslas and cost significantly less.